Hey, Renegades fans, thanks for joining us for our second week of our Zoom/Facebook live show. We're glad that you decided to join us. Last week, we talked to Q Macritaro, who is a manager from the Renegades. He was a hitting coach, and now he's in the major leagues with Tampa Bay. And one of my favorite managers of all time, Tim Parenton, who came from the college ranks and ended up being with us with the Renegades for a couple of years. Timmy, how you doing?
I'm doing great in these times. Nothing to complain about, just trying to figure out what's the next step for all of us.
So you staying safe down there?
Staying safe. Just opened up the beaches, so that helped a little bit. Our county, Duval, is one of the ones that's taking the lead down here, and they're keeping the numbers down, but we're doing what the doctors tell us to do, and, so we can get back quicker, hopefully.
And you're definitely out in the sun because I can see the sunglasses, white and red, around the rest of your face.
Well, I try and get to the beach twice a day. I get a run in the morning. In the afternoon, I try and get a walk in and stay away from people. But when you live 100 steps from it, you got to get on it when they open it back up.
Oh, listen, isn't that the reason why you went there?
Yeah. Well, the longest I've ever lived in the same place, one house. Although I moved up to New York for the summer times, but this is the longest house we've ever owned. And it's official, like in a few days. 10 years.
Really?
Yes.
Good for you. Congratulations. So let's start getting into this. First of all, unlike a lot of guys who've come through, who've been the skippers for the ball club, they came in through pro ball one way or another. You came a different route. Let's talk about what the route was and how you became the Renegades manager from a different avenue than most.
Well, I was a college coach, started in the 90s. Believe it or not, 85, 86, 87, I was a graduate assistant in football at Mississippi State. And I just didn't see myself in the recruiting part of the football world, in the SEC especially. One of the assistant coaches at the time was Pat McMahon, who works for the New York Yankees right now, had told me, because I had played baseball at Mississippi State, that, once he got a head job, he would offer me a job as an assistant. And in 1990, he did. He got a head job at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia, and offered me a job there. And from there, spent 30 years of baseball, pretty much.
Well, what people don't know is that you were quite an athlete way back in the day. Played a little football, played a little baseball. Did you play basketball?
In high school, I did all four sports, track also. And then at Mississippi State, I did too. I was a baseball, football player there. And, decent back then. Now I'm just trying to be good at something.
Oh, were you a quarterback?
I was quarterback in football, kicked a little bit. We played some special teams. Tyson Hill from the Saints, I could say I did a little bit of that back when at Mississippi State when we ran the wishbone. And then in baseball, I was shortstop, mostly late game pinch hitter, defensive. I never did start a ball game, but a couple of World Series. We went to World Series in Mississippi State, had some nice teams there.
So overall, you had a nice playing career before you decided to settle down and make it your living.
Sure did. Played with some great teams. Played on some great teams with some former major league, past major league, Will Clark, Rafael Palmeiro.
Those guys could hit a little.
Those guys could play a lot. They could do a little bit of everything.
Yeah. So what was the process for you becoming the manager of the Renegades?
Well, I've been in college baseball for a long time. Went to high school baseball for 3 years there for a little bit, and then went back to college baseball and just wanted to give it a chance. And I made some calls to some, Q is one of the guys who got me in with the Rays. Believe it or not, Matt played for me at Old Dominion. I coached him, I recruited him, and he played for me at Old Dominion.
All right, so what's the scouting report on Q?
Q can hit. Q was a third baseman, first baseman, catcher. Got drafted as a catcher. Believe it or not, he'd have been drafted higher. We were at St. John's playing, and he separated his shoulder, had a collision at the plate, separated his shoulder, and set him back a little bit. But Q could really hit. He was a hitter. And that's what made it for him. That was his ticket in pro ball, was hitting.
So you know how humble he is. He would never mention any of that. He also would never mention that he helped you get the gig. That's just his way.
He did, and that's him. And we stay in touch. We text probably once a month, and we talk right now we're talking a little more than texting, but we stay in touch all throughout the years. We had a good core at Old Dominion, and all his buddies. We all stay in touch a lot.
So you become the manager of the Renegades. Now, you had a unique advantage that other pro guys didn't have. And I think that's because you came from the college game. You understand how those kids think. And now you had to teach them how to be a professional ball player. But I would imagine you treated them differently than a guy who was a pro player talking to a pro player.
Well, it was a big adjustment, to be honest with you, because I had nothing but pro people around me. And I thought I had an idea of what kids wanted and how to treat kids who are 18 to 22 years old, because I've done it for the past 20 years, 15 years. And that was the one thing that I think the Tampa Bay Rays do such a good job with their minor league system of putting older guys with younger guys, so there is a mix. And I think the one thing that I brought to Tampa Bay was I have an idea what the college kid can do on the field. It's off the field is where they have to make the adjustments. Because in college, it's strict. I mean, we've got weights, we got school, you got everything to go. Once you get to pro ball, there's a half a day there's nothing to do. And what are they going to do? So a lot of it was just trying to manage their time. And that's the biggest thing that college guys have to learn when they get to pro ball, I think, is managing their time and know what to do, when to do it. Because the games are different. You play late, you get home later at night every time. You're free, and you don't have to get up and go to class the next day. Or in some colleges, you don't have to get up and go to weights the next morning at 6 o'clock. I mean, that's part of it. And I think that's one of the reasons they hired me, because I had an idea of how to deal with kids at that age.
So explain, since you're familiar with the head. So the average person who comes to a Renegades game, and we try to tell them all the time that this is either their first or their second step in pro ball, even though they may come from big colleges. And that the idea for Tampa Bay, now I'm not talking about you as a competitor, I'm talking about the parent organization, is they want you to develop them as professional ball players, teach them the game, make them understand how different it is from playing in college. And it's completely different. So what was their head change like, even though you were familiar with the same kids who were seniors or juniors, and now that 1 year they crossed the line where they signed their name on a contract?
Well, the bottom line right there is a contract, and it's all about them now. And going through college and being a college coach, it's about the team more than the person. In pro baseball, if you could get them to buy into the team concept, the personal part's going to be there. Because if you start winning, as we did a few times with, Renegades, people will come out and watch and see. And once people start seeing your name and you start doing things, you get noticed a little more. The one thing that the difference is, it's all on you in pro baseball. I mean, it's your work ethic. They're not going to force you to do stuff. If you don't want to do it, hey, you fall by the wayside. But the one thing that Tampa Bay does is they try and put them in a situation where they can succeed. And that's the one thing that they did for us. They didn't move guys on too fast. They kept them there. And you know that from watching the rosters, how other teams would jump around early in the year. Tampa Bay puts them there, and they want them to learn how to be a professional, how to come to the ballpark every single day. Because in college baseball, you play 5 times a week. Some guys don't play but 3 times a week once the conference starts. So it's a whole different mentality where you're practicing at 2 o'clock every day, then you're playing a game at 7 o'clock. We got to get your body into that mentality. And that's a big change for kids.
Well, it's no different when they get to the major leagues. They still have early work. They've got BP. They're at the yard if you're the home club. You're there by at least, I would say, before 2, unless you're a superstar.
Right. And that's the one thing that college baseball is totally different from that. They don't have pre-practice or any of that. They'll go to the cages and hit a little bit. 7 o'clock ball game, BP's at 5. You got class and you got other things to do. So it's a whole different ball of wax. So
you had success with us. You had some good kids. You won a little bit. And honestly, Tampa doesn't care, and they'll never say this in public, they don't care whether we win or lose. They want you to develop players. And sometimes you could just hear the fans that don't understand that. Like, they want you to make certain changes or hit and run here or bunt there. And they don't understand that You're not going to take your second round draft pick and have him sacrificing in the third inning in a 0-0 ball game because that kid's getting paid to do something else. The fans don't get it. And sometimes we try to explain it to them. And you always hear me saying stuff on the PA like, yo, shut up. That's not how the game's played at this level. But it's the truth. You're developing pro ball players, and Tampa don't care if we go 76-0 or 0-76. They don't care. They want you to develop players.
They want you to – no, I tend to think that they do want you to win. They want to teach them how to win, but they're not going to sacrifice the development to win. They're going to make sure that so many – if they give me a roster sheet and they say this guy has to pitch this many innings, this guy has to get this many at-bats, they leave it up to the manager to get it done. And the manager has to just make sure by the end of the year that there's so many at-bats, so many innings pitched, the pitching coach, the hitting coach, everybody collaborates on it. But they want you to win because they want to teach them how to win, because those guys in that McNamara division, that's who they're playing all through their career. And even when they get to the big leagues, some of those teams have McNamara division is in their league. So they want you to win, but the bottom line is it is about development. And it's about taking a college kid who was probably one of the top 10 players in his conference. Most of the higher drafts are coming to the New York Penn League. And in college baseball, there's a lot more breaking balls. And in pro baseball, they're bringing the heat right off the bat. And you know that the Rays teach fastball right off the bat. And sometimes people in the stands get upset that they're getting hit, but they're learning to pitch with what they think they need to pitch with to get to the big leagues, not with just to get a win that night.
So after you left us, what'd you do?
Came back and I'm the head coach where I'm at right now, University of North Florida. I had some different reasons to leave. It wasn't, I love pro baseball. I'd go back tomorrow. I just thought I had to do some things here. My wife was here and I had a chance to get some retirement in, and, you know, the salary was a little better. But I'd go back tomorrow. I told my wife, we talked about this now that we're home all the time. We talk about it all the time. I can't look back on one move I made in my career and said I shouldn't have done that. And every job I've had, every step I've taken, and she sacrificed a whole bunch because she's moved around with me. And that's the, I told her, I said, if something comes up and we like it, we're going to do it again. We're still, I'm 58, getting ready to be 59. And, you know, we still can do our thing.
Good for you. All right, every once in a while, I'm going to get a question from the people either watching on Facebook or watching on the Zoom. I got one. What was your proudest moment as a Renegades manager?
Probably winning the division and getting to the final game the one year. I really think the way the short season is set up to consistently win like we did for 3 years with rosters changing and younger guys, and you know, you're getting draft choices in late. You're not getting some. You're having injuries at the AA and the AAA where guys are moving up and coming back. I think the consistency of doing what we did for 3 years, and then also the players responding the way they did. I think we had a great group of guys all 3 years that did everything we asked them to do as far as treating the fans right and doing all the good stuff.
Well, the players loved you.
Well,
you know,
I loved a lot of them. I can honestly say for 3 years, we probably had 1 or 2 mess ups in 3 years, and we've gone through probably 150 players. And I respected them and their place and their time, and they knew where I was coming from. That they do their work, I'm going to respect them, and that's how I do it still with my kids today. And they respected me because I gave them their time and their space, and you know, they knew it was a job and they knew what had to be done.
So you stay in touch with any of them? I know that it's not a friend thing, but do you follow guys? How do you do that?
Oh, I follow most of the guys that have played for us. I know a lot of them have been traded. A lot of them are out of baseball. Believe it or not, Jace Conrad ran into my sister-in-law 2 weeks ago because he's an insurance guy now, and she was getting insurance, and he's the one who's selling it to her. And
man, baseball guys end up.
It's crazy.
It's amazing how baseball guys end up in the insurance world when they get released.
Well, personable.
Yep. Here's another one. Did you like coaching Joe Olson?
Yeah, Joe was good. Joe was a great guy. I mean, I had no beefs with any of our players, and they know that. And I love coaching Joe because Joe didn't. He just did what he had to do.
All right. Is there a hidden talent that you're willing to share with all these people who are listening and watching right now? Go Saints! That you're willing to talk about?
I have no hidden talents. I am a sports fanatic. I play golf now, and I juggle a little bit, but I'm not good anymore. I used to be really good where I could juggle footballs and basketballs and stuff like that, but you have to practice that to do it. But no, I have no hidden talents other than, trying to be nice to my wife and just be a good person.
Well, you better not try, son. I'm married too. You got to make sure you do that. Don't be trying.
I think I've done it 30 years next Tuesday. So
oh boy,
we're going good.
All right. So again, backtracking a little bit, when you get to your first spring training, because what people don't understand is that when you get to spring training and you start working with the minor leaguers, many of the kids who are going to be on your team are guys who are going to get drafted plus some extended spring. Explain to people what extended spring was, because they hear that all the time. And who are those players and why are they there?
Extended spring training is guys who are good enough to play pro baseball that the organization thinks, but just wasn't good enough to be on a full season team yet. And they're young enough where they can play a couple of the short seasons or stay there in the GCL. But extended spring training is nothing more than practice in the morning and play games in the afternoon every single day, Monday through Saturday. And the three teams that we were playing when I was there was the Red Sox, the Twins, and the Orioles. And you play you play Monday, Tuesday against the Red Sox, Wednesday, Thursday against the Twins, Friday, Saturday against the Orioles. And you mix up the front two, the Orioles and the Twins, but you never mix up the Orioles because we were so close on Saturday. You want to keep the bus ride as close as you can. So one day they come to your ballpark, the next day you go to their ballpark. And you just do it for 2.5 months. And then the draft happens and we go play baseball.
So if the organization drafts 40 guys and you've got how many guys in extended?
We usually had enough to put out two teams. We usually kept about 35 or 40, plus the injured rehab players from all the other teams would be in Port Charlotte doing their rehab and getting spot starts and doing stuff like that. So you probably have 50 guys down there. And, it's 2 meals a day and they stay in apartments. And it's pro ball. They got a lot of free time in the afternoons to do stuff that they have to do because we're finished at 3:00 most every day. But it's really in the mornings, they lifting weights, taking extra BP. In the afternoons, the Latin players are going to English class, teaching them how to live in the United States, taking them to Walmart, having classes to get stuff like that. So it's really a learning experience. And I always tried to get some of the college guys to take some online classes so they could get their degrees. And a lot of them did.
All right. So now if you do the math, you're talking about 90 guys theoretically between the draft and extended. So there's obviously not enough room between all the teams that are in the organization because a lot of guys go north in April. So are you the guy who has to release kids and end their dream?
At every level, the manager is the one who has to release them, except for in spring training. In an extended spring training, the one who has to release them is the manager who is in charge or the one who has a little bit. I've had to release some. We have 3 managers down there because we had Bowling Green and we had the GCL there. So whoever, felt comfortable that they would go in and release along with a trainer. And that's how it happened. Yeah, we would release guys out of extended also.
Because rarely do they get released once they get to the Hudson Valley, correct? It happens, but not as much.
Right. It happens, but the Rays do a great job at making sure once they send a team somewhere, they pretty much are going to be there for a while.
So a question from Facebook. What are your thoughts on the new draft process? You're out of pro ball now, but you know that there's going to be a contraction and they're going to change the draft and how they're doing that sort of stuff. So what's your thoughts?
Right now, my thoughts are I would have left it like it was, but I'm a college coach and it's going to have a log jam in the college game right now, especially with COVID going on. Every senior can come back if they want to. I've had 4 opt to come back and 4 took jobs, but it's going to be a tough deal. I mean, it's going to be really, really, really tough. But on the Major League Baseball side of it, what can the front office tell a guy they drafted last year and sent him to Hudson Valley, who didn't have a chance to go through spring training to show them what he could really do against the other guys in the organization? So there's a little bit of mix in both of them, in both worlds, where, those guys can't get released yet. They haven't shown what they can do. So we can't bring a whole nother 110 in to do that. So that everything's changed. I mean, nothing's going to be the same from now on in anything we do. In anything we do, it's going to take some time to work it all out. And that's what's going to happen. But the 5 rounds is really going to backlog a lot of baseball players. And some of them are going to have to make decisions. Some coaches are going to have to make decisions whether the guys are going to be on their teams or not. And it's a big deal.
Well, if you got 4 guys coming back to play for you in college, again, tell everybody what the name of your college is.
University of North Florida.
And so North Florida, you got 4 guys hanging on. Now, that's got to impact the kids you're bringing in, doesn't it?
It does. It does, and they know it. And, the one thing, I'm going to be honest and open, I've called everyone and told them what's going on. And, the scholarships are due in on July 1, but, it's part of it. It's just the way it's going to be. And the NCAA has given us a little bit of a limit where we don't have to have numbers on our team this year, but next year we have to go back to 35. So it'll be a little easier this year, but next year is going to be a little bit tougher.
Yeah, so you're going to have a decision to make where you're going to have more incoming freshmen. Those 4 guys will then age out. But so it's at every level of baseball are going to feel the ripples of this.
Every single level. Every level, high school on from junior college up.
Well, imagine if you're a high school senior right now, and you're a kid who's a borderline kid, and you maybe had a shot to get drafted, and then they're only going to do 5 rounds, so you have to be a special player to get drafted out of high school. You got to be one of them stud lefties throwing 97 to get drafted. So now you may have to go to college and then deal with the fact that college may not have room for you either because they've got seniors who are coming back.
And that's the one thing that's going to make it. I was talking to a reporter in town yesterday called about the exact same thing we're talking about. Exact same thing. He's doing an article on Sunday. And I said, well, it makes the coaches' decision a little tougher. Players are going to be challenging each other, and they're going to be battling it out for spots and getting on playing time.
Are you the final decision, or do you have like a committee with your other coaches, the athletic director? How does that work?
No, I have 2 assistants. Both of them played for me. One played for me when I was at the University of Florida. One played for me when I was here at the University of North Florida. And our volunteer coach also played for me. So the 3 guys that work for me also played for me. And we discuss every single move we're going to make. It's not – I am ultimately am the one who has to make the decision, but there's never a decision where, I make it out. No, it's a committee.
Well, this question leads right into that.
Right.
It's from Connor, and he's watching us on Zoom, not on Facebook Live. And he says, are there any guys on your college team that the Rays should draft this year or next?
Not this year or next year. I had a couple of last couple of years, and believe it or not, the Rays come all the time. Brad Foley comes all the time in my place. I still talk to Bobby Heck a little bit, the GM, assistant GM, and the special assistant GM. But this year, no, we do not have any this year that can go to the Rays. Although they did call and ask about one of my arms, and in a free agent situation, maybe late. But with only taking 5, I don't know. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, think about it. They're allowed to sign so many free agents at $20,000 a piece. And like if you're that first free agent, normally you would be the 6th pick. There's a significant difference in money between being the 6th pick in a normal draft or a free agent getting $20,000. That kid's not going to sign unless he's desperate.
Well, and if it's a senior coming back, I think they should take the money. I don't think In pro baseball, it's about the age also too, and it's going to be a 23, 24-year-old kid who's played 5 years in college. He's got to step in there and do it real fast to make a move. And the person I'm talking about, I think he would take the money just to have a chance to play professional baseball because he already has his degree. 3 of my guys have their degrees. They're going to grad school just to come back and play that last year. So that's the one thing I can also say, that at North Florida, our kids are getting their degrees. We had a 3.7 GPA this semester and things like that are good about college baseball also.
All right, so this is a 3-2 slider that I'm going to throw at you right now. It's probably going to be in the dirt and running away from you. And this is from Steve from Peekskill. What is your favorite lunch meat?
Well, I am a boiled ham person. My dad owned a deli in New Orleans, and he won the best sandwich in the city of New Orleans a bunch of times, best po' boy in the city of New Orleans. So it's definitely ham and cheese.
Yeah. See, you handled that. You just slap it to right field. You went with the pitch. Very good.
I love food.
All right, here's a good one from George on Facebook. Since you have both worlds, you coach as a college coach, freshman coming into you. What's the difference between that freshman coming from high school and coaching him and coaching that kid who just got drafted, even though he had a couple of years of playing experience at the collegiate level? What's the difference in coaching those two heads, not just physically, but mentally, and how they can adapt?
They're headstrong. All players who come in think they're the best player. At the pro level, they're usually playing with guys their age and the same mechanics, and unless it's a high school kid who happens to end up at Hudson Valley, which that very rarely happens, although it does sometimes.
Josh Hamilton was the last. Yeah, he's the last one I remember, Josh Hamilton.
Right. So that's the one thing at the pro level, everybody's age-wise in the lower levels are about the same. And the college level, I got an 17, 18-year-old person who we signed to a scholarship competing against a 22-year-old player. And that's a total, you don't realize how much mature a 22-year-old is to a 17-year-old. Not the great ones, don't get me wrong. The great ones at the young age can do it. But the regular body, and that's the one thing I have to try and reinforce into these guys, because I did have a 3-year stint at a high school in New Orleans, that just remember, when you come here, you're like a freshman you were in high school against these guys. I think you're going to compete, but you have to really compete because you're not mature enough yet. And that's part of the deal.
So if I was to grab your iPhone right now, what's the last song that would have come up on it?
Probably Born to Run this morning when I was lifting weights, Bruce Springsteen. I'm a rock guy. I listen to all of it. I do everything, but I got a few that I go to when I'm working out in the morning, and then I go to a different sound when I'm running.
Also, there's a different taste in lifting and running?
Oh, yes. You got to go Guns N' Roses. You got to get some stuff in there to get you going when you lift. And then when you're running, I'm a slow runner. Although I did run a half marathon in the last month, 2 months ago. I like the mellow music to run to. I just go slow and easy.
Skipper, you're shocking me right here because I know you're from New Orleans. I tried to say that right for you, New Orleans.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say something from George Strait or some sort of country songs. I thought that's where your musical taste lied. I did not know you were a rocker.
Not a country. My wife is a country person as of late, but it's more of the new country. But no, all genres are fine. All genres are fine with me. I can go anyway. I can go opera to anything. Just put it on. Blues, I'm a big blues guy too.
Oh, listen, you come from New Orleans, but people who've never been on Bourbon Street don't understand. How long is Bourbon Street? A mile, maybe?
Yeah, about a mile. I lived 5 blocks from there for 3 years.
Dude, you walk down, if you start at one end of Bourbon Street and go to the other end, every single bar on both sides of the street have bands playing in them. It's unbelievable. So if you live in New Orleans, you are exposed to some of the greatest music on the planet.
Yes, and it's all different kinds every day.
Yeah, every bar had a different sound.
Right.
And when we were there for the winter meetings, I was amazed at how many bars had bands and how many different sounds were in each bar. And there were no cover charge. Walk in, whatever you need, listen to some music. grab a couple of beers, and then you could be on your way.
That's it. It's all changing now, though. Whew, real change.
Well, I mean, it's everywhere.
Yep.
It's everything's going to be different. Who was your sports idol growing up?
Joe Namath.
Oh, number 12.
Joe Namath. I was young, real young, but that's who we all. My aunt bought a TV to watch the Super Bowl, and we all went to her house to watch the Super Bowl on Magazine Street right downtown in New Orleans, and he was my idol. Football wise,
Baseball.
Baseball wise, I was more of a George Brett, Mike Schmidt kind of guy. Dave Concepcion. They were the winning teams at that time, But I went in baseball. I really didn't have one person. Probably the biggest name I ever heard was Rusty Staub, because he was from my high school, and my dad, who ran a baseball stadium in New Orleans, in his years, knew him very well.
He was beloved.
Yeah, great for my high school. He's still up on the walls there.
It sucks because I'm old enough to have seen him when he was actually a really good player, but all I can remember is him going from right field to left field because he was old at the time, and the Mets wanted to make sure his bat stayed in the lineup. And he kept going, depending on who was batting, they kept moving, and he would have to jog back and forth. And I'm thinking, this poor guy's running a marathon. They're killing him, and they don't even realize it.
Well, the Mets knew something way back then that everybody's doing now, to shift. There you go.
How about that? I want to wrap up with this, and I did not warn Q when I asked him this question. I warned you because I felt so bad for him because he had no idea, zero idea who his shortstops were when he was there. He couldn't come up with it. He said, "Oh, wait a minute, Jairo," and Jairo played a little bit of everywhere. So I'm gonna go down the list and ask you who your all-star team was when you were a skipper. It doesn't matter who played before you, who came after you, just the guys who played for you.
The guys who played for me, catching wise, probably Mac James. Came out of Oklahoma, was a pretty good player, hit around a little bit, was just getting back from an injury and probably played pretty good for us.
First base?
Nate Lowe. Nate Lowe could hit for power. Well, he didn't hit for power for us, but he hit for average. Every now and then he'd hit one out of center field and show everybody he had it, but now it's really starting to play for him.
Second base?
Vidal Brujan. And he was only there a short time with me for the end of 1 year. But he played the whole next year for y'all, if I'm not mistaken. I would have been there that next year.
Shortstop?
Miles Mastrobuoni. You remember him?
Okay, hell yeah.
Nobody, they said, that little guy's playing. I said, that little guy can play a little bit. You remember him big
Yes.
time.
He overachieved.
But look where he's at today.
Exactly. That's my point.
And that's what the other shortstop I thought about was Alex Soleil. And he was a smooth player. He's the one who got, that team that we finished second with, he probably made more plays than anyone else, just keeping us in ball games.
Third base?
Grant Kay. Can't forget the way he started his career. I still remember that night.
Well, tell everybody, so in case they forgot, tell them what happened.
Shows up, was playing up in the Cape, didn't know if he was going to sign his pro contract. First night there, he hits for the cycle.
Yeah, you dress the kid, throw him on the field, and he hits for the cycle.
Shows up, didn't do anything before that, played his first ball game, hits for the cycle. And it's unbelievable, and he's a great kid too.
Left field?
Garrett Whitley. I know a lot of people took a lot of heat while he was there, but he's a great kid, and he played his butt off every day you put him out there.
He was a gentleman too.
Yes.
Center fielder?
Braxton Lee. Ole Miss, I can't say nothing good about him going to the college he went to because I was from Mississippi State. He was a good kid.
Right field?
Jake Fraley.
How about your DH?
He was part DH, part left fielder, Joe McCarthy. Joe was a good player. Virginia kid, worked hard. He had injury coming in, but then played through the whole year for us.
All right, give me your four-man rotation.
Yanni Chirinos, Brock Burke, Hunter Wood, and my fourth guy, it was hard. And one guy really stood out one year for us, Travis Ott.
Oh, dude, great pitcher.
Travis Ott and Mike Franco also. That same year, both of those guys were, without those guys, we don't do what we did. So Travis Ott.
I'm kind of surprised that he's out of baseball already because he could pitch.
Different stuff, once you move up to that AA level, and you got to have some real stuff. And he had real stuff, but you got to be able to locate a lot. But he was a great kid, man.
Oh, very good kid.
Great person.
You're a reliever. You can give me one or two, whatever you want.
There's only one, I think, for us, and Diego Castillo. And I remember telling Mitch Lukovich about him, and he reminded me so much of a kid who pitched for the Phillies, Wayne Gomes, who was a first-round pick when I was at Old Dominion with Matt. He was on Matt's team, and he's exact same thing as Wayne Gomes, who closed for the Phillies for all those years. And I always thought there's not many guys in the New York Penn League throwing 97 with an 88, 90 mile an hour slider, and he just showed up with that every time.
That was ugly.
Yes.
That boy was filthy. So that's your all-star team. We're going to post it as such, and we're gonna end up saving all these all-star teams that we're going to do throughout. Because let's see, next week it's going to be Sandberg.
He's great. Jared's a good dude.
Then we got the week after that, Doug Wechter. He's the only guy to throw a no-hitter for the Renegades. It's the 20th anniversary.
Oh goodness, that's awesome.
And then the week after that's going to be Albie.
I talked to Albie 2 weeks ago because he's with the San Francisco Giants now, and he called me to try and get some dirt on Will Clark because I played in high school with Will and in college. Will's 2 years younger than me, so he was at the same high school in New Orleans and then Mississippi State college. So he tried to get a little dirt on him. Couldn't give it up.
Listen, Albie has no shot going toe-to-toe with Will Clark, in all fairness. I love Albie, but you're talking about Will Clark.
I know. But he was trying to get a little dirt because they were zooming. They were zooming that night.
I told Albie when I reached out to him today to hook him into this, I said, listen, I love you, but you are absolutely positively wearing the worst possible uniform in Major League Baseball imaginable. You're playing the Giants. Give me a break. But so we're going to line them all up and see what that all-star team looks like. I appreciate your time. It's always great to speak to you. But one more thing before you get out of here.
All right.
Where are you going to be in 5 years, Skip?
5 years, hopefully still doing baseball. I can't tell you where. I've never put a timetable on anything. I've never said I will never, because you never know what the next opportunity is going to bring to you. But hopefully I'm still on the baseball field doing something that I love to do, teaching kids the right way to play the game and, trying to win championships.
Well, listen, I for your sake, I hope you stay in the game for as long as you can until they tell you can't come anymore. Because you deserve to be a part of this game because you are a gentleman. You always appreciated all the stupid stuff that we had to do and understood that we tried our best to not interfere with the game, but you always got it with a smile. And that's a rare thing. And the kids, your players loved you. The fans loved you. So you made a real impact for the time you were with us, and I appreciate it.
The one thing I will say is not one time during my entire career did anything y'all did aggravate me. I wish we had more of that in the college game. It entertained me. You didn't interrupt the ball game. You and the Hudson Valley Renegades staff, I see Vicky, I see Dave, I saw Kristen on earlier. You people were great to me, and Sheila, and y'all did an outstanding job, and not one time did I ever regret anything up there or anything that was ever done.
And as I say goodbye to you, I have the words of Bob Hand, our super fan. He said, congratulations for beating cancer, and we're all proud of you and happy for you that you've been able to do that. You are a cancer survivor.
Thank you, I am, and it was a tough go, but we're clean and we're moving forward. And
That'll
tell the boys, Bob and the Prospector, and I know one's up in heaven listening to us right now,
yeah,
that I miss them also.
All right, man. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Have a great night.
Stay safe. Say hello to your wife.
I will. Stay safe.
All right, everybody, there you have it. That is episode number 2 of our chat with our managers. Like I said before, our next manager next week at 7 o'clock, Jared Sandberg, played the major leagues. He coached with us, managed with us, and now he's back in the major leagues with Seattle. We'll catch you then. Everybody be safe. Later.